So, you probably like tabletop role-playing games, and you want to be able to witness more of them. So, what I would highly suggest is that you dive into the world of actual plays. Now, if you're unfamiliar, an actual play is kind of a recording of somebody else's tabletop role-playing game, usually with Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder, etc. There are a wide variety of games that are being played these days, and if you want, I would highly recommend that you start with one of the big names, Critical Role, Dimension 20, or two of the big ones in the field. However, I will say that I think that you can find some very unique stories, and you can find really good productions from small teams that really deserve a lot more recognition out there. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to recommend 5 different actual plays that I feel that you should really look into, whether it is a recorded game or if this is a podcast, but these are really good stories. These are some of my personal favorites that I've been listening to for the last couple of years. So let's go ahead and get started. So kicking off this list, number 1, and I have been such a fan of this podcast for a long time, but it is the Reckless Attack podcast. It has been going on for around 2 years now. The team is fantastic, and this is going to be one of your traditional Dungeons & Dragons stories. This is a world of high fantasy, great imagination. Everybody at the table really gets along together, and you can tell that this is a group that's very comfortable playing together, and the performances are amazing all around. Along with this, it is top-notch editing. There's great music that's in there. Everybody's having a really good time, and the story itself is really interesting with some amazing and very different characters than you might see in a more traditional Dungeons & Dragons party. I mean, one of their main slogans is that they have a frog stack, and I'm not kidding, they really do. One of the players is essentially a combination of 3 different frogs. And if that doesn't get your attention, I really don't know what else would. But let's go ahead and move on to number 2. Now this is a little bit of a different recommendation, but Tales Yet Told does a fantastic job telling very human stories in very inhuman situations. They use a variety of Powered by the Apocalypse games. Their first season uses the Babes in the Wood, which kind of really gets that 80s almost kind of sci-fi horror kind of vibes. If you're familiar with something like Stranger Things or Over the Garden Wall, I'd say that these are going to be kind of like two major influences that make up this game, and it is fantastic. The horror is done subtly, but also very well, and the cast is very diverse, and they really play well together. Not to mention, the game is headed up by a friend of the channel, Kendo, who does a fantastic job, is an amazing GM, but the stories that are told here are great. And if you want something that's a little bit more fantasy driven, I would highly recommend then starting with their second season, which is more of kind of like a magical pirate campaign that uses the Rapscallion game from Magpie Games. And honestly, the team does a fantastic job. You really should be listening to this podcast. For number 3, we're going to go back to Dungeons & Dragons, and this was with Planet Arcana. Now, I love this show for a wide variety of reasons, and part of it is just that it is one of the most unique worlds that I have ever witnessed. Part of that is because there are 2 dungeon masters that collaborate and work together on this game, and they do such a good job. There's a great inclusion of music. The characters are very interesting. The world is out there, and it's wacky and wonderful in so many different ways. Along with this, the story is just really, really interesting, and it's so great to see how the characters have grown and changed throughout the course of the adventures. If you like a little bit of sci-fi mixed with tarot, then you would absolutely love Planet Arcana. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is going to be Cyberpunk, Talus on the Oasis. Now this is a much shorter recommendation. The show hasn't been going on quite as long as some of the others. The episodes are quite short in comparison, but that's what they aim to do. They want to keep it short and concise, and it's well edited. There's great music that's in it. Characters are the absolute definition of chaos in a unique world made for the Cyberpunk Red system. And if you want something with just really out there characters that might not necessarily be the best of people, but it's kind of interesting to see how they play together, this is going to be a show that you're going to want to watch. While there isn't some major grand story that is inherently obvious, it does follow this group kind of on their job-to-job adventures, and although wacky shenanigans that they get into. And it has a very interesting message, and I will say that like the group clearly has a lot of fun playing together, and you really can't fault them for that. And if you want to learn a little bit more about kind of how Cyberpunk Red works, this is going to be a good show for you to kind of dip into the waters for that. Now let's move on to number 5. So for number 5, we're going once again back to Dungeons and Dragons, though this one is a little bit more unique. This one is Winds of Calamity. This is an actual play that is also produced by a friend of the channel, the Literary DM, and it imagines what if Dungeons and Dragons, but in the world of Legend of Zelda. There is a lot of love and care that has gone into the creation of this world. You can tell that a lot of people are Legend of Zelda fans that are playing and getting to experience this world. Characters interact very, very nicely, and the show's been going on for around a year, so there's a lot for you to be able to catch up on if you would like. Other than that, it is just a fantastic adventure that really gets going rather quickly, even though it starts off with kind of being in a little bit of a carnival area and then branching out from there. So these are 5 of my personal favorite recommendations. These are some of the shows that I've really just been listening to and trying to keep up with as best that I can. And I think that each of them has something that's very unique and is a great offering out there. However, I would ask of you, what are some of the actual plays that you like, if you have some that you would recommend? Just because I'm always on the lookout and I'm always wanting to try to find out other systems. I'm wanting to branch out into more Cyberpunk or Lancer or Pathfinder. So whatever you would recommend, please let me know in the comments. If you like this video, give it that thumbs up. Go check out all these productions while you are at it. And hey, if you liked what you saw in this video and you want to see more, maybe consider subscribing. But until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.